Unit conversions. Now you may have seen before some unit conversions with the metric system going from things like centimeters to meters. In that circumstance, all we have to do is just move the decimal point because it's all on a base 10. But what if we have a conversion that is not so simple, not on base 10? For example, how many inches are in a mile? Well, we got a couple different methods on how to do that. Converting 3,200 centimeters to meters. We start with our measurement, 3,200 centimeters. Now we need to convert it to meters. So the first thing we need to do is we need to get the centimeter unit into meters. Now, in order to get this centimeters unit into meters, we first have to get rid of the centimeter unit. Now, how do we do that? Well, just like in math, if we multiply by 2, we also divide by 2 in order to undo that. So multiplying by 2 and dividing by 2 will cancel it. Same thing here. We could take this centimeter unit and then divide by centimeters in order to cancel those units. But then we're going to put meters on top because that's what we want to convert to. Now, we can't just take a number and multiply by anything in order to convert it to meters. A measurement has to hold its integrity. We have to keep the same measurement. The way we do that is if you take a number and you multiply it by 1, take any number, multiply it by 1, it'll be the same number. Now notice this ratio right here. This ratio. We have 1 meter on top, 100 centimeters on the bottom. The top and the bottom are equal to each other. So whenever we have a fraction where the top and the bottom are equal to each other, we know that's going to be equal to 1. So essentially we're taking this measurement right here and we're multiplying it by 1. Now the reason we have 1 on top and 100 on the bottom is because 1 meter equals 100 centimeters. You got to be careful with this because oftentimes what we do is we forget and we put 100 on top and 1 on the bottom, and then you got 100 meters equals 1 centimeter, which doesn't make sense. So that's just one way to double check yourself to make sure you're on the right track. Now the centimeters are going to cancel and we're going to be left with meters on top. So we take 3,200, multiply by 1, and divide by 100. And that gives us 32 meters. Now that sounds pretty easy because really all we had to do is go from centimeters to meters. We take the decimal point 2 places to the left. But this shows that this way works also, where we multiply by 1 meter, divide by 100 centimeters. Now a couple of things to notice. First of all, we want to divide by the unit that we want to get rid of. So we got this unit here, we want to divide by that unit in order to get rid of it. The second thing to notice is that the measurement that we divide by and the measurement we multiply by are going to be equal to each other, so that this ratio is equal to 1. Let's try another example. Let's convert 0.7 years to seconds. Now, do you know how many seconds are in a year? I don't either. But we can convert to some intermediate steps, some points in between that gets us from years to seconds. Now seconds is a smaller unit than years, so we need to go to other smaller units in order to get 2 seconds. I would say the first thing we probably want to go to is days. Now 1 year equals 365 days. So notice we got years on top. We're going to divide by years here and then convert to days. And then 365 days equals 1 year. Alright, now that gets us to days, which is a smaller unit, but that doesn't get us to where we want to be, which is seconds. So we need to convert again. 24 hours in 1 day, so we convert this day right here into hours, and then hours into minutes, and then minutes into seconds. Now notice each time, years are going to cancel, days are going to cancel, hours are going to cancel, and right here we can see that minutes are going to cancel. The only units we have left is seconds. So what do we do next? Well, we're going to take everything on top and multiply it together, and everything on the bottom and divide by that. So it's 0.70 times 365 times 24 times 60 times 60 divided by 1, divided by 1, divided by 1, divided by 1. Now notice we're not really going to punch in divided by 1 in our calculator because we multiply or divide anything by 1, we get the same unit. Plug it in, we get 22,075,200 seconds. Now convert this to scientific notation, and we see that it's 2.21 times 10 to the 7th seconds. Now, I'm going to pause here for a second because this 2.21 times 10 to the 7th is actually incorrect. technically speaking, this should only be 2.2 because what we started with was a measurement with two significant figures. Our conversion, what we convert to, should also have two significant figures. That's like saying if we convert this unit, then our conversion is going to be more precise than what we started with. That doesn't make sense. So it should technically be 2.2 times 10 to the 7th. But that's not really something we're going to be concerning ourselves with right now. Next example, 22.4 miles to kilometers. Well, a couple of conversions you probably want to know is we have 1 mile equals 5,280 feet. Another conversion is 1 inch equals 2.54 centimeters. Now that's exactly the case. When the SI system was being developed, the people who were developing it noticed that 1 inch was approximately equal to 2.54. So the scientists defined 1 inch to be equal to 2.54. All right. So we start with 22.4 miles. Now we need to convert miles to something a little bit more feasible. We got to get all the way to kilometers. I would say probably the first thing would be feet. This conversion right here is a good one to use. So 1 mile is going to be equal to 5,280 feet. Miles are going to cancel, and then we convert feet to inches. 5,280 feet. Feet convert to inches, so 1 foot equals 12 inches. And then we're going to use this conversion right here, where 1 inch is going to be equal to 2.54 centimeters. Now, that gets us to centimeters, which is pretty close to what we're wanting, but we want kilometers. There are 100 centimeters in 1 meter. There's 1,000 meters in 1 kilometer. So there's 100,000 centimeters in 1 kilometer. So converting from centimeters to kilometers, we go 100,000 centimeters to 1 kilometer, which is 10 to the 5th power centimeters to 1 kilometer. Now you see all these, the miles, feet, inches, and centimeters cancel and leave me with kilometers as my final answer. So I take 22.4 times 5,280 times 12 times 2.54 times 1 divided by 1 divided by 1 divided by 1 and then divided by 10 to the 5th. And punch that in your calculator, you get 36.05 kilometers. Now again, I would like to mention we start with 3 sig figs. Technically this should have 36.1 kilometers, which would be 3 sig figs as well. 18,000 centimeters per second, something a little bit more difficult. It's got to be converted to kilometers per hour. Well, we've already done the conversion from centimeters to kilometers, so that's pretty easy. So we got centimeters converted to kilometers. Great. But we still have seconds here. Now the thing about this, in order to get rid of the centimeters, we had to divide by centimeters. But seconds is on the bottom already, and we need to convert to hours. So in order to get rid of the seconds, we don't divide by seconds because it's already on the bottom. We have to multiply by seconds. So seconds actually goes on top, and then minutes are on the bottom. And then 60 seconds equals 1 minute. All right, well, we got minutes. Now we need to convert to hours. So 60 minutes equals 1 hour. All right, so the minutes are going to cancel, the seconds cancel, and the centimeters cancel, and I'm left with kilometers per hour, which is the units that I want. 18,000 times 1 times 60 times 60 divided by 1 divided by 100,000 divided by 1 divided by 1. Punch that in a calculator, we get 648 kilometers per hour. Now technically, again, since I started with 2 significant figures, 18,000 has 2 significant figures. Technically this should be 650, 650, where we have 2 significant figures as well.